Hey, what's up? I hope everybody's doing good today. Doing good today? It's good to be with you. So, I am so grateful to have you this evening. And we're going to check real quick to see who's in the room. But we're going to get on with this show. Yes, yes. Make sure you're liking and sharing and commenting and being a part of the community. That's what it's about here. It's about you guys being a part. Being a part. Tia, thank you. We just had plenty of conversation this evening. How we're going to work with the world as we work with ourselves. Hey, Brother Titus, it's so good to see you. So good to see you. Hopefully, we can get what I want started. See how if everyone can meet this weekend, because I have to get that. Miss Marie, so good to see you. If you guys are in the space in this room, just know that there's different ones of us that have been a part of this. Different people have been connected to this for a while and been Brother Titus, who has been on the show. This guy here is kind of like my best friend. Ron Hudson, who helps me with all sorts of different things in life. It's great to have him. And you guys let me know, making sure I know you can hear me. Miss Deidre, hey, how you doing? Is it me or is that flashing? Okay, I'm wigging out. Oh, okay, it has to do with me in this thing here. Cesar, yes, yes. You could, guys, and look, I want to have you probably back on the show coming in probably Black History Month. I think that would be amazing to have you for Black History Month. And I seen her, I seen you today when I was out and about. Miss Dorothy, Brother Joel. Yes, yes. So beautiful. I appreciate everyone for coming through, stopping by, liking, sharing, and being a part of this. Ooh, Ruben, it's good to see you. Good to see you. This is beautiful. And we have a Sebastian in the room. Yes, yes, Miss Gloria. Beautiful. Making sure we are on all channels. Everything is working. Making sure that before I really get into this, making sure everything is working. This evening, one I would like to say is that it's going on a year ago that Bishop Carlton Pearson transitioned. We haven't heard his voice for a little while. And so this whole month I'm kind of dedicating to him. The whole community is a branch off of me being on his show, Expanded Consciousness. And I'm just carrying on with that mission. And what is that mission? And I think that mission is what it is. It is to expand consciousness. And the other thing is going beyond belief. There's something I picked up from him, and he would say, and he would bring it in form of a question, and for us to ask ourselves is, what do we believe? Why do we believe it? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of our life? I like to say beyond belief, when everything is or seem to be belief. Tonight, I'm going to be speaking on what we have all experienced till recently, which is the U.S. election and the battle of the sides. American sports are very, very, very influential to even our politics. There was a time where there was a level of decorum that you would have when you would speak about an individual. But we have entered into a space where it's almost like sports, but yet, though, it's not because there are real lives and real people. And just because you say things that are hateful or say things that seems like you're going after your competitor or your competition, it's a different story when real people's lives are at stake. When we want to demonize people and make them out to be threats to the world. And I get it. We can all feel threatened, especially when we're treated like we're some team. We're going to do some exploring. And tonight we're going to talk about why Trump, why Jesus. And the thing is I have a documentary that is now released. First series is on Tumi. There are plans, of course, and it's a 5-part series. We're going to watch a clip of the series. Another one of my best friends is the writer, director, and hopefully he'll be able to get on tonight. He's out of Chicago, and we have a slight discussion. But first, what I would like to do is I would like to address something. One is I want you to understand this. We may go on a metaphysical journey. I'm a mystic, and I believe in and I'm connected more to the metaphysics, right? The questions and the contemplations, even over other forms of what I would consider spirituality, right? Spirituality is something that we do, right? It's something that we do. But this evening, we're going to deep dive and we're going to get into somewhat just possibly the psyche and possibly the things and the feelings and effects that we may have on what we are feeling. And um there's really not two parties. There is really essentially one government that's divided into various parts. There's different ideologies and philosophies, but ultimately it's all sort of a delusion. It's a delusion to make us feel like we have or take a part of some of this operations, and yet we do and can if we're willing to be in the political space, like commit to being in the space. There's influences and all these different things. But the thing is where are you now? How are you feeling now? Some people may wonder, why is it making people feel down and out? Some people are super excited and feel like they're going to have their country back. What is their country? Do the people that you oppose don't belong in their country too? Is the country considered to be a place for those who want to call it theirs and everyone else is not included? What we're experiencing goes way deeper than what meets the eye. It is a collective conscious. Watch the market. It's going to go up. It was already doing well. But watch. Things are going to change, and they're going to believe before he even takes office. And that's part of the collective consciousness. You believe it. This person believed it. That person believed it. That person believed it. All these people believe in it. And they begin to shift. You have to begin to shift internally. And I suggest that you begin that shift as we go through this interesting paradigm without understanding what to expect. But I will tell you, you must take care of yourself. Let's take a little quick journey to get an understanding on Christianity, Western Christianity. Drastically different than Eastern Christianity. In understanding what is Christian or Christianity. How did Western Christianity make the US? How did it make the US, and how did it integrate into its politics? Let's just venture out on YouTube. You know how I do it. And let's see and get it from someone. I believe this will be fun.
In God we trust. It's on dollar bills, in schools, and deeply embedded in American politics.
God bless you.
And may God bless America.
With over 200 million Christians, the United States is the largest Christian country in the world. Even non-Christian politicians find ways to be accessible and relatable to Christian voters.
In our faith tradition, Jesus Christ is a son of God.
But how did a country founded on religious freedom become so intertwined with Protestant Christianity? Hello, my friends. To understand this unique influence, we need to explore its roots, how it took hold in the New World, and how it continues to shape America's political landscape today. To begin our journey, we must jump back 500 years to the Middle Ages in Europe. At this time, the Catholic Church wasn't just a spiritual authority. It was a political powerhouse, often deciding who held power and influence. Salvation in many ways became a transaction. Those who paid more in indulgences were believed to secure a quicker path to heaven. This practice became one of the central grievances that sparked the Protestant Reformation. Enter Martin Luther, a German monk who in 1517 boldly challenged these practices by nailing his 95 Theses to a church door. Luther argued that salvation comes through faith alone and insisted that the Bible should be the sole authority for Christians, not the Pope or the church hierarchy. His ideas quickly spread across Europe, igniting a wave of religious reform that would forever alter the Christian landscape. Protestants fleeing religious persecution in Europe viewed the New World as a land where they could freely practice their beliefs without interference from a state-sponsored church. So then how did Protestantism thrive in the US? From the very beginning, many early settlers in America were Protestants seeking freedom to practice their faith, away from religious conflicts and state churches of Europe. Groups such as the Puritans, Pilgrims, Quakers, and Anglicans established communities reflecting their unique religious beliefs. In 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, setting a precedent for religious refugees and emphasizing religious freedom as a foundational American principle. John Withrop's 1630 City Upon a Hill sermon laid the groundwork for American exceptionalism, envisioning the Massachusetts Bay Colony as a model Christian society that would set an example for the world. This notion that America had a special role in God's plan continues to influence American political culture. The Salem witch trials of 1692, which led to the execution of 20 people, underscores the potential for persecution in a society driven by extreme religious zeal. Meanwhile, the Quakers in Pennsylvania promoted equality, tolerance, and pacifism, fostering a more open and diverse society. Today, Pennsylvania's role as a key swing state in US elections reflects the lasting impact of Quaker values on debates over religious freedom, social justice, and civil rights. By the 1730s and 1740s, the First Great Awakening swept through America, encouraging a personal, emotional connection to God. Some preachers challenged formal religious practices, leading to the rise of new denominations like the Baptists and the Methodists. This movement set a tone of religious enthusiasm and diversity that shaped American religious life for years to come. The early 1800s saw the Second Great Awakening, a powerful revival across the Western frontier, emphasizing action as well as faith. The movement inspired social reforms like abolitionism, temperance, and women's rights, and was influenced by the American Revolution's ideals of individual liberty and self-governance, which were rooted in Protestant beliefs. This revival helped shape the US Constitution and tied Protestantism closely to American identity. By the 19th century, Protestant values such as hard work, education, and community service were deeply embedded in American culture. Protestant churches served as centers for worship, education, social gatherings, and political activism. Though their role has evolved, many Protestant churches continue to serve as community centers today. Protestantism has continued to shape American values and politics, influencing movements like Prohibition and later evangelicalism with Billy Graham's Crusades.
With God, I can face an army.
Graham's legacy persists in American politics and worship. While the election of John F. Kennedy, the first Catholic president, revealed the deep-rooted influence of Protestant identity.
I am not the Catholic candidate for president. I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president, who happens also to be a Catholic.
So how does this influence continue to play a key role in shaping political platforms, voting behaviors, and public debates today? Protestantism has been a driving force in American politics for decades, especially through groups like the religious right. Jerry Falwell, a major figure, founded the Moral Majority in 1979, aiming to bring evangelical values into the political sphere.
We certainly put millions of people at the polls because of the president's commitment to a pro-life agenda, to strong national defense.
This group significantly shifted the Republican Party's platform, playing a key role in getting Ronald Reagan elected in 1980. Today, Protestantism continues to shape voting patterns. Evangelical Protestants, known for their conservative views, are a reliable base for Republicans, especially in the South. Meanwhile, mainline Protestants, who often hold more moderate or liberal views, are more likely to vote for the Democrats. Protestant beliefs also influence debates about separation of church and state in the US. The government is expected to be neutral regarding religion, yet religious expression in public life is allowed, sparking ongoing debates over religious freedom with avoiding government overreach. Looking ahead to the 2024 election, Christianity, particularly evangelical Protestantism, will play a pivotal role. Donald Trump remains popular among many evangelicals for his stance on religious freedom, his conservative judicial appointments, and his role in overturning Roe v. Wade.
They are coming after me because I am fighting for you.
On the Democratic side, Kamala Harris may face challenges appealing to religious voters due to her pro-choice position.
Do you not trust women to know what is in their own best interest?
Democrats are trying to connect with faith communities by emphasizing social justice, immigration reform, and economic equality. As both parties vie for faith-based voters, these religious groups could prove decisive in shaping the 2024 election's outcome. With changing demographics and evolving views on faith, the ongoing relationship between religion and politics could once again define America's future direction. Thank you for watching, my friends. If you'd like to watch
There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. What we are experiencing has more to do with a consciousness, then it has to do with what we have experienced or about to experience and experiencing. There's a little chart that I want you to see. And it's not a little chart. It's a massive chart. And this chart is, I think I may have shown, I may have showed this before. But this chart is a chart of the Christian denominations in the world. But the thing that I find real intriguing and interesting is I never really put it all together or thought about this for, I could probably say, ever. I'm trying to see here real quick. Let's see how I can add this. So that you can see this. Well, maybe not. Anyways, this particular chart, at one time I had this chart downloaded, but it basically breaks down the entire map of Christianity and how we have grown or it has changed over the years. Some of the key things in that video that I want you to remember is it all began as a transaction. It's almost kind of like what we would see with the Apostle Paul, in terms of Apostle Paul taking over, if you will, this Christ story, this Jesus story, and doing a 180 and being the person that he was, right, against the followers of Jesus, and then becoming the spokesperson for Jesus. Of course, never met Jesus. But just going to our country, right, beginning as a transaction it began as a transaction, but some of the key things was Martin Luther with the 95 Thesis. I think this was real pivotal and really unique, and I'll come back to this, is the Salem witch trials where 20 people were killed, right? And they were burning witches at the stake. And it really was, some of those people that they considered witches were kids. But what's really unique, Quakers, Pennsylvania, Protestants, but then you have this evangelical, which covers primarily the South, Billy Graham, Jerry Falwell, and how it has become almost a way to get people to believe whatever you want them to believe, as long as it stays within this structure. Of course, we all know that this is directly tied to colonization, right? Basically how America was essentially built. You heard Dr. Phil say it was built on hard work, disregarding, I guess, slavery, disregarding people that experienced that. And the thing is there's still people alive today that experienced this. Not slavery, but they experienced things within the building of America when they were considered less than human. But here we are. And there's a reason why we are here and we are experiencing this. Us as a conscious community, us as people that are wanting to expand our conscious, us as people that want to get an understanding or a deep connection to being proactive, but at the same time living with what we are experiencing. How do we do this? hopefully we'll learn more this evening. So I have, of course, this documentary called Why Trump? And what this film is about is it's really about an experience of my dear friend Brian Shorthoff. It started in 2020. He and I were at my home, and he was, of course, traveling from Chicago, and COVID hit. We were in my backyard. Was a big thing. I remember being in the backyard, and we had just finished another documentary called Chicago at the Crossroads. It's also on Amazon Prime, Chicago at the Crossroads. You can find that. And so Trump announced I remember Trump announcing that he was going to be coming to Tulsa. And I just remember we just hit it. We just hit it. And I have a little surprise, and that is Brian is with us, and we're going to talk to him, and then we'll go back and I'll sum up a lot of the things of where you possibly can go, or the feelings and the emotions that you may want to explore. But anyways, of course, the documentary is available. The first episode is available on Tumi. You can watch that this evening. But I want to watch the teaser for the third episode, and then we'll bring my dear friend Brian Shorthoff on screen.
You guys mind the word Marxism in an ad? Okay. Biden has America on an express train to Marxism.
God bless America, then us three.
Okay. I've known Roger for many, many years and consider him a good friend.
Big things are going to happen very soon that nobody expects. Our problem today are not radical socialists who run the Democratic Party. Our problem are the feckless, gutless, weak-kneed, corrupt, lily-livered,
yes,
white wine swilling, country club belonging, establishment Republicans who don't have the guts or the balls to stand up for New York.
Are you OSU fan? Yeah. You're a cowboy, huh?
They will try to bury people like me. They will try to bury people like President Trump to scare you, to fear in you.
These are fascist communist tactics they're using. This isn't America.
And one direction is to continue this beautiful experiment in democracy called a constitutional republic. And the other direction is towards socialism or communism or Marxism.
God's not finished with the United States of America. We still have tremendous hope.
Give me liberty or give me death. Thank you and God bless you.
Here you go.
Can I get your autograph?
Yeah, what's your name?
Rose.
Rose. It's Kim?
Kim.
Okay.
Nancy.
Nancy.
Thank you for all you're doing.
Doing the Lord's work. Got to do it, right?
Gotta do it.
You are a hero.
I was trying to share the truth.
Take our country back.
Come here.
Going to a school board meeting Monday, so I got to be armored.
Go get them. Hang in there, okay? Appreciate you being here.
They'll say, I got to ask you, why are you doing this? Well, why did Paul Revere run around waking up America? I'm Paul Revere. I'm warning people that the communists are coming.
We are in a satanic battle right now, good versus evil.
If we do not stand up and push back, we're going to lose this country. We're going to lose the freedoms that we have.
We're living in the age of the beginning of white minority resistance. What Donald Trump has done is expose the reality of white fear to not have these conversations.
The Republican Party has these very ancient ideas. Oh, wait a minute, our ideas don't work anymore because the whites are losing demographic power. And so now that the demography is shifting, out with the democracy.
This is the beginning of the end if we allow it to occur.
If we don't stand and fight for freedom today, we're not going to have any to fight for tomorrow. There's nowhere to go.
I could see their whole agenda of trying to make the children hate America.
It's to change the culture of our children.
Upholds those rights, right? We get our rights from God, and the Constitution upholds those rights. And he started.
And my daughter even came home from school at one point and said that white people were horrible people. And I was like, where did you learn that? Because we're not.
You know, Black Lives Matter, that's a domestic terrorist organization. It has nothing to do with Black lives. That is a group of Marxists who are trying to overthrow this country. We can't have it.
White people try to erase critical race theory because they're trying to wipe their responsibility of what America is.
I didn't do it. Were you a slave? I just have to work twice as hard.
So if that's the case, we shouldn't just take away critical race theory. We should stop teaching history altogether.
What people often will say is, you're causing more trouble. But race relations were fine before people like you got out here and started stirring things up.
Because that same mob mentality exists in the subconscious of the city. They would do it again.
We won our freedom once. We lost it again. Now we're fighting again. It's crazy. We're fighting for it again. Why are we fighting for it again?
There's Tulsas all over the country now. And that's what's frightening to me. And there's this ideology that is saying we want to create unity, but in actuality, we're creating separation. We're creating divides. We're creating individualism.
Tonight is the 100-year centennial of the 1921 race massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Let us be reminded that it was on this street where terror reigned.
Brian Schroeder, my dear friend. What's up?
I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Ever since you started doing this show. I remember when Corey Taylor had you on Up Close with Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
On OETA. And then and now I'm on your show. So thank you for having me.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother. It's amazing when I think back that we were doing it was 2020. Trump was running for president with Biden. And the fact that it's like never could imagine that this was going to be what it is today.
Well, I mean, it went from Trump, as president, very volatile 4 years. I don't think it could have, it's hard to imagine it going any worse. Of course, he couldn't have predicted or stopped the COVID virus.
Right.
But a lot of the things that happened during that time and even after were a lot of Trump's own doing.
Yeah.
The constant infighting, the instability in his cabinet, the constant wars with the media, irrational behavior, all those things that kind of came to a boil on January 6th. And people say, well, it was a witch hunt. They weaponized the DOJ against a sitting and then former president. And you sit back and say, yeah, well, he did most of those things, if not all of them, including insurrection, where he directed his followers to go to the White House. He told them, go down there while they are participating in a due process of the United States electoral process. So, it was interesting. Now we had 4 years of Biden, and folks can chime in on whether they think that was successful or not. It wasn't perfect. There were some areas where they probably could have done better, but under the circumstances, I compare it to Barack Obama coming in office in 2009. Very difficult time. The country was in a severe recession coming out of George W. Bush, multiple wars. I think Biden inherited, a lot of the same issues that Obama did, and for the most part, turned it around. So now Trump again inherits a good economy. Inflation is coming down. Job numbers are good. The economy is growing. So we'll see if he can handle it this time. I think maybe the assassination attempt may have humbled him.
Yeah, right.
And then also just like going also just being reelected, after losing in 2020, spreading lies, conspiracies about rigged elections, which is tactics of dictators and authoritarian and totalitarian governments, is to create distrust in the electoral process as well as within the media. So I hope he can take it and learn from his past, and we'll see what happens. I do wish him the best.
Right. It's a game, right? It's been a game. A lot of history would tell us that honestly, it's the real people of America and the people that are what we would consider the elites. One thing you said that was quite interesting when we talked earlier today, which I thought was really interesting, and that was that Donald Trump start running for office in 2015. He won in 2016, correct?
Yeah, and he started laying the seeds back in 2012 with the birther accusations.
And then so by 2015 or 15, he's
that was
nominee.
Yeah, I mean, he was they called it when he came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower. And so he came down the escalator and he paid the people who came to that rally. He held a rally in Trump Tower in New York, and he went around and gathered people up and paid them all $50 or $100, I think it was 50, to come and pretend and hold signs and pretend like they were there for his rally. That's where it started, and
how long ago was that?
That was in 2015.
So one thing you pointed out is even after he left office, but he didn't leave office, all throughout the Biden presidency, we heard nothing but his brand, nothing but about him. We have been listening and hearing about him for
9 years. So this was
9
June
years.
16th, 2015 is when he announced his candidacy for president. So that was 20 to 26, about a year and a half before the 2016 presidential election. So, that's about the right lead up time. Now think about how much time Kamala had. Kamala only had 3 months.
Yeah, which
didn't
was
have enough
yeah.
time.
No, and plus it was, to me personally, I think they got tired of Trump when Trump was in. So Biden was able to win because they were tired of Trump. And now they get, and of course you still constantly hearing Trump, you get tired of Biden. So you go back to Trump. I think we're going to witness a new, to me, this is a paradigm shift, especially when you think about those guys as white, older males.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of something that represents to a lot of Americans, America. And what would you say your take, Brian, is on your experience being, because my thing one thing I'd like to shed a light on is like when Brian went to that particular rally where those guys were having it, we learned earlier on that we don't want to take black people with us.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? You remember what taught us that we may not want to, if we want to do this documentary, or we may not want to take anyone black. You remember what happened?
Yeah. So Trump announced his, this was during COVID. It was in June of 2020, around June 20th. So he announced he was going to be coming to Tulsa because it was Oklahoma's a red state, and he knew that the shutdown was somewhat relaxed in Oklahoma, Republican governor, but he picked the date to come to Tulsa on Juneteenth, and Tulsa was getting ready to celebrate the 100-year centennial of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Something that has been shedding more light on, but at the time, all these documentaries and things hadn't really come out yet, and we were still kind of opening up that wound and learning about it, accepting it, receiving it. But Trump, to so many people at the time and still today, to them represented white supremacy, this ideal of white superiority. So a lot of people were very offended by his decision to not just come to Tulsa and land in Greenwood, but to come on that weekend. So he did change the date to the 20th or the 19th, excuse me. And instead of coming on Juneteenth, he came the day before. Now, he even said that because of him, now people know about Juneteenth. He said he didn't even know what it was. And he took credit for people learning about Juneteenth, which was humorous and par for the course for Donald Trump. And but you remember, this is the height of COVID, so he came to the BOK Center, and me and you, Malachi, and your brother Charles went down the day before the rally. We were alternating between the BOK Center and Greenwood. And if you remember, it was a dichotomy, an intersection of American cultures, where you had all the Trump supporters at the BOK centers, mixed in with Confederate flags, megaphones, people in their eyes expressing their First and Second Amendment rights, guns, assault rifles, handguns, you name it, everything was there. Now, on the other side of downtown was Greenwood, where folks were celebrating Juneteenth. So it was a surreal experience. It lasted 2 days. And then, of course, Donald Trump had his rally where he was expecting hundreds of thousands of people. And TikTok ended up RSVPing, filling up the seats, and then nobody showed up for the rally. So they kind of got the last laugh. But that was right in the middle of COVID, and so we would go up to Trump supporters and interview them, ask them, why they support Donald Trump. Some folk, we had a mixed review. Remember, these aren't monolithic answers. They're not all the same. God was mentioned, God and country. Some people talked about the economy. Some people would say promises made, promises kept. They're just the diehard Trump supporters. At the time, we were still kind of exploring this Trumpism. I feel like we understand it more, and the country does as well. But really fascinating. But to your point, we did go up to some folks, asked them if we could interview them. And at one point, you had, and your brother had walked up, and joined the interview. And once they saw you guys, they said, no, never mind. We don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, they got nervous and whatever. That happened a couple times.
Yeah. We want credentials. Remember, one lady was like, hey, come here. And she was going to do it. And then she was like, do you have, let me see some credentials or something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. I think we learned then just that, okay, if we want a real interview from people and them to open up, that we need to basically think about how we want to do it. And then half of those events, I'm like, I don't want to go. And I remember.
Well, because if you ask them if Trump's racist, and there's black people around, they always get more nervous than it's just being a white people speaking to. There's got to be a term for that, but they're certainly more comfortable.
Yes.
When it was just, somebody explaining how they were not racist to somebody who was white, and how it's a bunch of ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, well, just the experience of what it's like. And here you are, a Chicagoan, and not truly understanding that, that experience. And I think even more so just from white people, where how they can be so hardcore compared to Chicago. I remember you reached a point or a moment of doing the interviews, and you got to a point where you were just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. You were feeling
I went on about, doing this for 3 years. And so in Tulsa, Tulsa is more of like a purple area demographic, where it's not blue, but it's not red. Trump typically will still win Tulsa County, but it certainly is more progressive than Oklahoma City or say the rest of the state.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting place. It has culture. It has obviously Greenwood and that legacy now with Greenwood Rising and, bringing more light to that. But it also has a very dark past, and a lot of the the underpinnings of racism that we've seen. Go walk up in the Mayo, is it the Mayo Hotel, and go look on the wall and the pictures of all the white men and the oil tycoons in the room, with their suits, and you have, hundreds of men in there and all white faces. So, dating and even before that with the Osage and the Cherokee, the 5 civilized tribes that originally resided in Tulsa, and they were swindled out of their land, and we have Killers of the Flower Moon that people are familiar with. So it's a very checkered past in Tulsa, which makes for a lot of great documentary topics.
You know what I think too about Tulsa that is hard to understand is that it's in your face, right? You could go to various different cities from DC to Atlanta, and you could see a lot of blackness.
Mhm.
But one of the things is a lot of the transitions from the massacre, and even coming here today, you could really truly like see it in your face where you're asking the question or you're experiencing like, hey, this happened, and let's experience this. One of the things that I would like to cover and ask you about, because I deal with a lot of the not deal, but a lot of us in this community are based on Carlton Pearson. And so and he came out of course, he came out of the church. I would still consider Carlton Pearson a Christian, but he was a different kind of person that would have Christian belief. Some would say inclusionist, or some would say universalist. But you as a non-religious person, how was it in the environments? Like you went through quite a few environments, did you, in terms of like, as you were doing this and going to go record other areas?
So that's the other thing about that people don't understand is the religious connection between folks in the heartland, evangelicals, Christians, to Donald Trump. Some people think he's kind of the second coming, of Christ, a Messiah. Some people think he's part of the rapture, where Jesus is going to come down and take the believers to heaven, and the rest of us either stay hell on earth.
How is it for you to experience that? Not necessarily growing up.
It was shocking. It was shocking because here's Carlton Pearson, the heretic, who asked the very brave question. Maybe heaven and hell doesn't exist. Maybe hell is a place on earth. He sat in his mansion in Tulsa after he built this wonderful congregation and became one of the nation's leading preachers under the great Oral Roberts in Tulsa. He learned from the best, and and had a oratory way of delivering his message and incorporated music. And one day he had a revelation that heaven and hell is a place on earth, and he was cast out, as we know, from his congregation. And rest in peace. He spent the last 20 years of his life kind of a nomad, going from several different churches, looking for a home. And I don't think Carlton ever found that peace that he was looking for. He was a minister at All Souls with Marlon over there, Lavender, and but I don't think he ever refound his heart. And so Carlton is in our documentary. You know, we interviewed him a couple months before he passed.
Right. And I mean, that was like 4 hours.
Yeah,
4
yeah.
hours.
We filmed the last interview with Carlton, and we may end up making that its own
Oh,
documentary.
I definitely think we should. I think tying it to what we have today when it comes to, because my thing is that I would like for these people to know is like that. One is I believe in order for us to get to something, we might have to go through something.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Democratic Party needs to rethink if it's capable of how it does the business of politics, right? But I think it's polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I also think for me, Brian, this is like, I'm really big into not just spirituality, but I'm big into consciousness and awareness, as you already know. I'm big into understanding like the shifting of time, the shifting of who we are. And so therefore we're in a space right now that I believe like that there are still a lot of American people that I don't believe Donald Trump could do whatever, but I don't think they necessarily, some voted for their Christian faith, not even the values, but they voted for their Christian faith, and their pastor said, which I find is ironic, that you can even get in a pulpit and say that. You used to not be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And technically you're not able to now,
Mm-hmm.
but they're able to get in the pulpit and say and tell people who to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, I think also is the purging of the ideas of who we are as people, who we are as Americans. And as we in this, to me, a transitional state, and the transition is more ideologies. It's more of who we believe that we are. And what I know is if you change people's belief systems, like if people become more conscious, if people become more aware, all of a sudden the things that people do, you can't just do it and a person is willing to ask the question. Later I'll show a video that's talking about reality. But brother, I know that I'll probably end up having you again. We'll probably do some more talk on this. And
can I show you something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pull this up here for you. I'm gonna share my screen.
I think it should let you do it.
Yeah, I think it needs me to accept it real quick. Later. Okay, let's see if it'll do it, because I think you'll want to see this. There we go. Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Probably not. I'm on this software called StreamYard, but it's on your computer?
Yeah. I just had Carlton's interview pulled up. Let me try it one more time. I'm just hitting the share screen. Okay, do it. Choose what screen I want to. Okay. All right, let's see if it'll.
Oh, cool. Let's see. I think it. There we go.
Okay.
Largest televangelist on television, and the largest female in the world.
You have to
pulling a crowd. Donna McCluskey.
It's sharing your screen, Brian, but it's not.
But it was all apostolic. When I say that.
Well, we'll circle back on.
Yeah, most definitely. I really would love to show that. It's showing your screen, but I really would love to circle back and do that, so they could see that.
Yeah, and you didn't. So, just real quick. So, you and I met through Wayman Tisdale.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
folks who don't remember, I mean, who could forget Wayman? But
Yeah.
for the younger folks, Wayman was Booker T High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma, state championship. I think junior year. I don't, because he played with his brother William Tisdale. And then William went to Oklahoma, and then Wayman went to Oklahoma under a young coach named Billy Tubbs. And Wayman put Oklahoma basketball on the map. They were a football school. Marcus Dupree and those guys. Wayman went to school with Toby Keith, and later become really good friends with Toby.
Friends, and
yeah,
that's what we did the Wayman Tisdale doc, and then we end up doing the big one was Chicago at the Crossroads.
Chicago at the Crossroads. Yeah, I mean Wayman was the big one though.
Yeah, I mean it was big, especially the doc, but as far as the Crossroads was an interesting piece. What I'll do is I'm gonna finish the show up, but what I'll do is I'll bring you back. We'll come back on and we'll share some of that other footage. But I appreciate you, brother, for coming on. If you guys want to watch that first part of the series on the documentary, it's still available on Tubi.
Yep.
Correct.
Chicago at the Crossroad on Tubi, and Why Trump on Tubi. And you can follow me at Filmmaker Brian on I got a new TikTok going. It's going crazy. And obviously here on Instagram.
Thanks, you brother.
Thank you. Love you guys. Love you, man. We'll talk to you guys.
Talk soon, brother.
All right. Keep it up.
That's Brian Shortoff, a dear friend, Chicago, Illinois, and that documentary, Why Trump. You guys can watch that documentary, and I'll definitely probably have him back. And plus, I'll have him with probably some, most likely some footage from Carlton to sum up kind of this particular talk. I'm working on some things where I want to be able to actually continue this talk behind the scenes and allowing other people to be able to attend and be a part of a conversation. See if I can get my screen up here. But one of the things that I really would like for us to understand is that, and with the question, why Trump? And we know why Trump. It happened. And the question that people ask if we're going to be okay, one of the things that I know you can hold faith in is the fact that Donald Trump says a lot. He's always said a lot. And some of the things are not really practical, even though he says it. In the aftermath of all of the recent political upheavals and elections and things that we've experienced, I'll tell you one thing is for certain, and that is the political landscape in America is deeply intertwined with religion, as you guys know. The cultural identity and the deeply rooted historical narratives have always played a role. And we know that we are at a paradigm shift for those who are in the expanded conscious space. The connections run really deep And many of us realize that our society has been shaped by these belief systems. We have our own constructs. We deal with our own issues when it comes to what we believe and why we believe it. Many of us are progressive, which is different than even being a leftist or a liberal. Just as I would go as far as to say there are Republicans, there are conservatives, there are ultra right wing. And a lot of those individuals play within some of the same spaces. Not everyone that would vote Republican is an ultra right. But we've come to this point in history that we can now begin to ask questions. We can now begin to ask deep-seated questions. And we can be in a level of contemplation. And one of the things that I believe is and understand about collective consciousness is that the more an individual or groups of people come together, if you will, and they believe a particular thing, I believe it changes, and it can change the way things work. It's the collective conscious that is spread vastly in energy, and people believe those energies, and people receive those energies. And it's left us in this position today with many of us feeling possibly lost, confused, but also it has some people excited, truly excited about what's happening. And I think more of their excitement has to do with saving the world and saving the country and taking it back. And I'm curious who you're taking it back from. But Trump represents something far beyond his policy positions or his rhetoric. He is perceived as a person that represents traditional values and a businessman, and he embodies resistance to change. And he is perceived as a person that speaks ideas, and he speaks what people want to hear. And sometimes I don't think it really matters what he speaks. When you have things that I've written down here, such as the religious background that we have, that a lot of people have inherited. And if individual people begin to question what they believe, why they believe it, and how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality and value of their life, and be free in being able to do that. A lot of us still have our ways of doing what we do whenever it comes to our belief systems. And ultimately, I believe that is one reason is why we are here. One thing I want to know, when I say white Jesus, I'm talking about a way religion and racial identity has become entangled within Western Christianity. And by the extension of that, Western society. the story about how we believe that it's about love of God and country. I'm not sure if it's tied to the Middle Eastern figure who preached about love and humanity, but it over time it really means something different. But it's on us. It's on the people that are open to ask questions, but also the people that are open to try to understand. Yes, we may have to stand up for what we believe or stand up for what we know. But also, in the face of adversity, in the face of what we believe we're about to face, we can begin to shift. You could move into joy even in the midst of sorrow. It's a practice, it's a process. A CEO of YouTube was a female. She recently passed away, and she really wasn't that old, but she had lost her son. Her son died. And the grieving process can kill you. It can kill you. And so there's a way to grieve. And I would go as far as to say there are some people out there that I know that may need to actually talk to someone. To be a person to become irrational and think that we're going to lose the country and we're going to lose life. And I know I've hearing about stories about people texting and telling the black students, I believe that, about going to go pick cotton and all these various different things. And yes, racism is going to be at the surface. It's going to be pushed to the top more so than ever, most likely. But I would like for you to adventure out into yourself and and to not just speak on spirit, i.e. God, but to use it as a point to be closer going within than you have ever in your life. Use this moment in time. Acceptance. We know the whole system, the whole entire system, and the infrastructure of it all is at a breaking point. What we thought was going smoothly 20 years ago, even though we still had our problems, wasn't what we have today. But I would like to encourage each one of you to reflect on the power and the symbols in your own life, to ask, what stories have I inherited that may not serve me or society? How can I embrace a more open, inclusive understanding of even spirituality and my identity of who I am? And ultimately, how can we as a society start to look to the future with a more clear understanding of who we are and what we value? I would tell people that if you are at war and you're out in the middle of a situation and you see someone, this is drastic, but I want you to just feel this. And the person, clearly may not have legs. Do you freak out and say you're consoling that person And do you know that person is possibly going to die? Do you be like, oh my God, you ain't got no legs? Oh, and we all freak out. Or do you try to find within yourself a way to comfort that person and tell them, you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I'm here to tell you, you could feel like all hope is gone. But I'm here to tell you that it could probably be one of the biggest lessons for those who are wanting to be conscious. You could go deeper into who you are, deeper into understanding. Deeper in shifting your reality. Madam C.J. Walker was a Black female who was basically an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. But she was a businesswoman and became a multimillionaire. And she was a businesswoman and became a multimillionaire living next door to white elites. And this happened in a time that was never heard of. How was it even possible? She had to go into a space and a place and begin to believe in something that was not even necessarily something many people couldn't even fathom. So let's use this time as an expanded conscious community. Let's use this time as a moment to grow closer together, get to know each other. Develop a sense of community greater than ever before. Always end the day as much as you can disconnecting, disassociating from living life. Just become pure consciousness as much as possible, because you're about to transition when you go from awake and you're going to go into a sleep state. And just make sure you just take a moment and to release the day. Just release the day, right? You can just say that I'm releasing this day. Breathe deep, release the day. If you're connected to me in this era and time, I think we can make miracles happen. I think we can make things happen and we could begin to change our lives like never before. The resiliency, the spirit, as I speak to us with some of our ancestors that truly endured and went through things that they dealt with when it comes to living, they had to dig deep. And I believe that, yes, people can be affected in all kind of different ways. People have been affected in different kind of ways. But ultimately, let's jump timelines. Let's shape shift. Let's become mystics, right? Just imagine for you to believe what you believe, and they would burn witches, and it weren't witches technically. They would burn people at the stake. It was just people that were exploring spirituality. There's people that were allopathic medicine, people that would be in the woods and they would be formulating different concoctions. And essentially, it was Christianity was one of the things that kind of flattened, destroyed, hushed anything outside of its constructs. It was used in order to gain a level of power today. And I understand why. Because it's a consciousness that we have to shift. It's consciousness that is shifting. It's consciousness that we all yearn to receive and to understand. Pure consciousness. I'm going to take you real quick on a deep dive. And after that, I'll let you go. This one is maybe a little tough, but I'll get you through it.
Yeah. What most people don't do are two things. First, to formulate specific hypotheses, and then to try as hard as possible to falsify them.
Okay.
We understand that science does that, but when it comes to metaphysics or religion, then we think we don't need the hypothetical method. We'll just grab onto one answer and proclaim it as true.
Right.
What I'm advocating is that we take a question like the nature of consciousness. We look at the most plausible option, a small number, and then we try to test them to see which ones do the most justice to the scientific data and which ones are the most coherent within themselves and with the rest of human experience.
Are you telling me that we should use the scientific method to extend ourselves beyond science? Is that contradictory?
No, that's exactly what I think is the human condition. What drives it is the attempt to be reasonable about ultimate questions that humans face. And what drives it also is our constant, I want to say, existential quest. I need to know, what is it to be a human person? What does it mean to be human? As an animal that knows it will die, I find myself confronted with those questions. And I have no option other than to try to formulate answers.
And doing it from a metaphysical standpoint, from a metaphysical way of thinking, add something that we can't get through any other method?
That question presupposes that we have to add something that's not already there. I suggest that
you're finding something that other people, whether they're scientists or theologians, haven't found.
No, I disagree. We're already in the midst. It's as if we live in this water, this sea, which transcends the empirical shore. We find ourselves always already pervaded by questions that go beyond what's empirically discernible.
Okay.
And either we say, no, you're not allowed to pursue those questions because we in a scientific age know that nothing meaningful can be said about them, or you give yourself permission to entertain the questions. And if you entertain the questions, my only plea is that we do it with as much reason and rationality as we can muster.
Entertain the questions. Entertain the questions. I know you're left with a lot of questions, but that is life. When you entertain the questions, you don't have to always look for the answers. Contemplation. Accept one thing. Accept one thing. You are here now. You are here now. Deep breath, breathing, spirit. in the midst of this time, you can make a choice. There are millions of people right now. And the election is the last thing on their mind. It's their kid that's in the hospital. It's their grandmother dying. It's them that are dying. It's that diagnosis that they just got. We all have questions. We don't have to look for answers. We can be just in the question. Your nose, your mouth, breath, breeze comes in, lungs. We have things that we know about. We speak on the chakra systems. Elevate it. Try it. Look to explore. Look to come out over the next 4 years better than you can ever imagine. Nothing to do with what you have given up, but all to do with this feeling of being disconnected. Just breathe in your nose, like deeply. And pull that energy up. Push it out your mouth. Do that like 5 times, just as hard as you can. Become grounded. Move into spirit. Feel what you want to feel. Energy. Okay. No, thumbs up. I don't know what that's about. Okay. We like that. Technology. I look to grow. I look to take this whole thing to the next level. And I believe we are empowered to do so. Are we not? Yes, it is in my plan. And I'm going to announce it next week. How we can go to a place, join the community, be in the community, because it already is the community. But what is it? What is it about? What do I get there? And I believe there's lessons and there's things that we can learn from each other. There's courses that are in place, from metaphysical understandings to conscious understandings. I love to play with the sciences, but I also love to play with us being able to do things to our body to take us to new heights. If you're not exercising in any kind of way, pushing your mind to do that, start before the new year. Make a commitment to start something new. Don't let this time and the energy that's in the air drive you. You be the energy. You are the energy. You are the source. God is the infinite intelligence within us, without us. we can access it. Love you guys. Next week, 8:30. I'm loving this. I'm excited. I'm excited. I want to send the energy out to one of our community members, Mr. Rubin. Who is experiencing some things and going through surgeries. And I know people pray, and I believe in people doing that. When I think of prayer, I like to use it and think of it as not a request, but to move into a space and say that I'm grateful and thankful for what has already been done. I'm thankful for the healing that is being received. I'm thankful for the energy that is going towards Mr. Rubin and his situation in his surgeries. That he can understand that and know that it is done. Now, this shell, this body has to go through. We appreciate you. We love you. We're thankful for you. I believe in love and the power of love, and that it is healing. You have a call on your life and you know it. And as they would say, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. No, it won't work. Send the energy to every last one. Do my magic fingers. Do you believe in magic? Thank you guys. We love you. Appreciate you. And until next week, make sure you think about what I said. Get you some exercise. Take on this new space and time. And remember, we're going beyond belief and expanding our consciousness. Much love.